What if I told you that the most revolutionary restaurant in existence isn't on Earth at all? It's hovering 254 miles above us, traveling at 17,500 miles per hour. Let's wind the clock back to when humans first dreamed of touching the stars. But quickly realized one vexing problem. How do you feed a human in the most inhospitable restaurant imaginable? The tale of space food begins centuries before rockets, with ancient humans desperately trying to keep their meals from spoiling. And recently, Blue Origin has joined this cosmic culinary adventure, taking everyday people beyond our atmosphere, where even eating becomes an extraordinary challenge. In the culinary annals of humanity, preservation wasn't just convenient, it was survival. The Egyptians dried fish and poultry under the scorching sun as early as 12,000 BC. The Chinese were salt-curing meats by 6,000 BC. These weren't just recipes, dear viewer. They were the first chapters in humanity's battle against food spoilage. Mesopotamians discovered fermentation rather accidentally. Their forgotten barley porridge transformed into something quite unexpected. This wasn't just dinner, it was drama. The birth of beer. But more importantly, the discovery that certain transformations could make food last longer. By the 1800s, Napoleon Bonaparte, tired of his armies starving on campaign, offered a handsome reward for food preservation methods. Enter Nicholas Appert, who developed canning. Imagine the revolution food that could travel months without spoiling. Little did Appert know his invention would someday travel not just across continents, but beyond our atmosphere. The 20th century brought freeze-drying, a process where foods are frozen, then placed in a vacuum chamber, where ice sublimes directly from solid to vapor. The Vikings and Incas developed primitive versions, but modern science perfected it. And just like that, humanity had food that could last years without refrigeration. Taste, dear viewer, is memory in disguise. But in space, it's also an engineering marvel. When humans first ventured beyond our atmosphere in the 1960s, food was problematic. The first American in space, Alan Shepard, didn't eat anything during his 15-minute suborbital flight. John Glenn, however, consumed applesauce from an aluminum tube on Friendship 7, becoming the first human to eat in orbit. Appetizing? Hardly. Necessary? Absolutely. Early astronauts endured cubes coated in gelatin to prevent crumbs, which could damage equipment or be inhaled, squeezed tubes of paste-like substances, and dehydrated powders that reconstituted with saliva. But humans, being the stubborn creatures we are, wanted more than mere sustenance. The psychological impact of familiar, enjoyable food became increasingly apparent. As missions grew longer, NASA realized that food wasn't just fuel, it was morale. Today's astronauts on the International Space Station enjoy over 200 items on their menu. Freeze-dried, thermostabilized, irradiated, and naturally stable foods have transformed cosmic cuisine from punishment to pleasure. And now, let's talk about Blue Origin's entry into this stellar story. Jeff Bezos' aerospace company has been focusing on suborbital space tourism, taking passengers briefly beyond Earth's atmosphere on their New Shepard rocket. Blue Origin's flights aboard the New Shepard are brief compared to orbital missions, typically lasting around 11 minutes from launch to landing, with approximately 3 to 4 minutes of weightlessness. These aren't dining experiences in the traditional sense, they're more like cosmic appetizers. Unlike the Space Shuttle or ISS missions that might last days, weeks, or months, Blue Origin's brief suborbital journeys don't require extensive meal planning. According to Blue Origin's own materials, passengers receive minimal training before their flights, including instruction on how to move about and behave during their brief, weightless experience. For such short flights, Blue Origin doesn't need elaborate food systems. While specific details of their in-flight refreshments aren't widely publicized, We know that suborbital flights like these typically avoid serving food during the actual weightless portion of the flight, as the brief duration makes eating unnecessary and potentially messy. Any refreshments would likely be consumed before launch or after landing. The challenges of eating in space remain the same whether you're on the ISS or a Blue Origin flight. In weightlessness, crumbs float and can damage equipment or be inhaled. Liquids form spheres that drift away, and the sense of taste is dulled due to fluid shifts in the body. Even your digestive system works differently without gravity's familiar pull. NASA has spent decades perfecting space food systems. Their research has shown that astronauts often experience taste changes in space. Many report preferring spicier foods as their taste buds seem dulled. Texture becomes crucially important when familiar flavors change. This research influences all space food development, including preparations for commercial space flights. Women have been breaking barriers in space since Valentina Tereshkova became the first woman in space in 1963. In recent years, female astronauts on long-duration missions have contributed valuable insights into nutritional needs and food preferences that differ from their male counterparts. This research helps companies like Blue Origin prepare for diverse passenger needs. The preparation of any food destined for space begins long before launch. Foods undergo rigorous testing not just for nutrition, but for particle shedding, packaging integrity, and ease of consumption in microgravity. NASA's Food Systems Laboratory in Houston remains the premier facility for developing and testing space food. Their expertise informs the entire industry. Modern space food combines ancient preservation wisdom with cutting-edge technology. Today's freeze-drying removes 98% of moisture without damaging cellular structure, preserving both nutrients and flavor far better than ancient sun-drying ever could. Thermostabilization, heating foods to destroy pathogens then sealing them, echoes canning principles, but with precision that would astound Nicholas Appert. For Blue Origin's passengers returning from their brief journey to space, the experience of eating back on Earth likely takes on new meaning. Many astronauts report a phenomenon called the overview effect, a cognitive shift in awareness from seeing Earth from space. This perspective can transform something as simple as enjoying fresh fruit into a profound experience of appreciation for our planet's abundance. The food preservation journey, from ancient Egyptians drying fish in the sun to modern space programs engineering nutrition for zero gravity, represents one of humanity's most remarkable achievements. We've transformed food from something that spoils in days to something that can nourish us as we leave our planet behind. But what's next for cosmic cuisine? As private companies like Blue Origin, SpaceX, and Virgin Galactic expand access to space, food scientists are developing new technologies that might someday allow space travelers to enjoy fresher, more Earth-like meals. NASA is currently testing 3D printing technologies that might allow astronauts to print customized meals from shelf-stable components. Imagine fresh bread baked in orbit, custom-designed nutrition tailored to each traveler's metabolic needs. And as we contemplate longer missions, perhaps to Mars and beyond, we face the ultimate challenge, creating sustainable food systems that can support humans for years without resupply from Earth. The ancient techniques of fermentation might find new purpose in space, creating self-sustaining microbial ecosystems that could produce food indefinitely. What would the ancient Mesopotamians think, knowing their accidental fermentation experiments would someday inform how humans might survive on Mars? What would Nicholas Appert feel, seeing his preservation techniques evolve into systems that feed humans as they hurtle through the void? In the end, space food isn't just about survival or even nutrition. It's about carrying our human experience, our culture, our shared meals into the stars. And with companies like Blue Origin making space more accessible, more people will experience the challenge and wonder of dining beyond Earth's bounds. But there's one space food experiment that went horribly wrong, a culinary disaster so profound it changed NASA's approach forever. That, dear viewers, is a tale for another time. This isn't just dinner. It's the future of humanity among the stars.